Good morning, everyone. Let's do some prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Om Bhur Bhavaswa, Tatsavitruvarenyam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Diyo Yo Nah Prachodayat, Astoma Satgamya. तमसोमा ज्योतिर्गम्य मृत्युर्मृतं गम्य ओम सहनावतु सहना भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं कर्वावहि तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहि ओम शांति 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 Let's open Yog Darshan Granth, chapter number 3, Vibhuti Pad. And this great Rishi, he is telling us that innermost sadhana. See, there's an outer yogic sadhana, then inner yogic sadhana, then innermost yogic sadhana. So that's where he is taking us to. But ultimately, no matter how much we read and hear, the real difference will be made only when we practice it ourselves too. So he's talking about the samadhi parinam, the ekagrat parinam, and nirodh parinam. These are the three terms we learned last week. Okay, so together they are like after Sanyam, these parinams come. So now let's look at verse number 12. ततः पुनः शांत अदितहु तुल्य प्रत्ययो चित्तस्य एकाग्रत परिणामः. Tatah means then. Then means from this deep practice. Punha, again. Shant, subsided. Uditau, manifested. So that is like a reason or rising, udit. Tulya, equal. Pratyay, contents of the mind. Chittasya, of the chitta. Ekagrat, one-pointedness. Parinamaha, transformation. So then again, when the objects which subside and appear. So that means they come up and then go down, are similar. It is called one-pointed transformation of the mind. That is the ekagrat parinam. So in ekagrat parinam, the same impression rises and subsides time and again. The same impression. Okay, otherwise what happens? The new impressions keep on coming. But at this level, the same impressions, they rise and subside again and again. For example, we were talking about the impression of Om. It rises and subsides alternately. Like it comes up and then it goes down. So the quality of the subsiding impressions and the rising impressions, they are the same now. But interval between them is very short. So they rise and they fall. It's like if we see a film on the screen, we cannot know the different pictures separately. There's a continuous movement. It is the same in the case of ekagrat parinam. The rising and the subsiding of the impressions is so quick that it really escapes our attention. And we feel that there's a continuous flow of that pratyaya. And again, that pratyaya could be the Om. So the difference between the two states is difficult to perceive. But still, it's not a single state, though. There are two different states, rising and subsiding. But the mind is steady in the state of concentration, and in that case, we do know the difference between the two states. Because usually our mind keeps on moving from object to object. That's what happens to an ordinary mind. In samadhi, the mind is completely trying to focus. Other cases, we can have one-pointedness, but it's not totally focused. So it could be a movement of the pratyaya. One pratyaya subsides and the same again rises. This process goes on for some times. And this is known as ekagrat parinam. And you can see that it takes a lot of effort or a lot of sadhana. It cannot be achieved just a weekend retreat or a week-long retreat. It takes time. Got to make it important for our own daily practice. Then in the next verse he says, Eten bhut indriyeshu dharam lakshana avastaha parinama vyakhyataha. Eten means by this. Bhut elements, indriyeshu, in the sense organs. Dharam is the property or quality. Lakshan is the characteristic. Avastha is the condition. Parinam, transformation. Vyakhyataha, explained. So by this, the three parinams. Now, which parinam he's talking about? Dharam, Lakshan, and Avastha. Nature, character, and condition. Where? In the elements. And sense organs are explained. Because our sense organs are made out of these bhuts, these elements. So we should understand this transformation or change in the elements and sense organs in the fashion of the transformations explained in the previous sutras. Whatever we have learned before, we should not forget. We should use it to understand these deep sutras. Because as the mind undergoes the threefold changes, or the transformations or the parinams due to sanyama, samadhi, ekagrat, and nirodha, the same way the elements and the sense organs, they undergo three types of changes, which are called dharam, lakshan, and avastha. So with the growth of the body, certain changes take place. We are familiar with. Now we are at a certain age. We have become old. Sure, there are changes in the body. There are changes in the organs. These are the three types. So this sutra means that when the mind undergoes a change or transformation, a similar change takes place in the sense perception and sense organs, in our indriyas. So this is what he meant over here, eten bhut indriyeshu. By analyzing the concepts deeply, the mind undergoes changes. And the corresponding to the transformations of the chit, there are transformations in the body and in the objects of perception. So these are the changes he's mentioning over here as a dharam parinam, lakshan parinam, and avastha parinam. These are the technical terms again. Dharam parinam, chit is transformed so far as its property is concerned. That is the dharam. And a Lakshan Parinam, the Chit is transformed as its character is concerned. And Avastha Parinam, the Chit is transformed as its Avastha is concerned. Avastha. Condition, that is the Avastha. So there's a changes happening in our Chit. See, we normally look at the changes only in the outer atmosphere or the outer part of our body, the physical body. But with this yogic practice, we are supposed to go towards the deeper layers of our personality and what is being changed over there. This is what he's talking about. Dharma Parinam, Lakshan Parinam, Avastha Parinam. The first two transformation is in the Samadhi. When you are trying to eliminate the distractions of the mind during the practice of Sanyam, Chit undergoes a little change so far as its nature is concerned. But when it reaches Ekagrat, the Chit will have another change in its structure or property, character or condition. And then again, when the Chit undergoes Nirodh Parinam, it will have a third transformation in the property, character, and condition. So in all the three stages, it undergoes Dharam, Lakshan, and Avastha. These are the three changes. So the transformation in the senses and elements take place exactly in the same manner. We are all familiar with the 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and space or ether. And 10 Karamindriya, or you can say 5 action organs and 5 sense organs. So motor organs and cognitive organs. They're all given to us so that we can enjoy this life, but at the same time, we can attain that ultimate purpose also. So the cognitive organs have a connection with the corresponding bhuts, the elements. We know that the ear grasps sound, which is the quality of the ether, the space. The skin grasps touch, which is the quality of the air. In the same way, we know the other elements also. But the senses do not work independently. The mind and the Chit also must be connected with them. We know that if mind is not connected with any of the sense, we don't even know whether we are doing it or not, that particular action. So mind and the Chit, they are connected with them. Otherwise, the senses will not convey their impulses. When the Chit undergoes the 3 kinds of changes, the sense organs and the 5 elements are also influenced by these changes. The elements and Indriyas gradually undergo the changes which are called Dharam, Lakshan, Avastha in the course of the practice of Samadhi. Now you can see that this Samadhi or Ekagrat or Nirodh, it's not just one time practice. It's like a long practice. The purpose of this sutra is to prove that in the course of time, by Sanyam, the yogi is able to perform many kinds of miracles. That's why the name of this chapter is Vibhuti Pad, Vibhuti really means those powers. Those powers come to those practitioners. They are not doing the practice for the powers, but power will come. You can call them miracles, or you can call them vibhutis or the powers. It is a kind of a proof so that you may understand how by concentration the dharam, lakshan, and avastha of the senses and the elements can be transformed. And this will be made clear in the discussion of the vibhutis, those powers, when we talk about. Because he's going to mention several kinds of powers in this chapter. Then in the next verse, verse number 14, he says, Shant Udit Avyapadeshya hai dharam anupati dharmi. Dharmi. Dharmi really means a substratum. Common substratum, that's called dharmi. So Shant again means peaceful. Udit means arisen or manifest. Avyapadeshya hai. Avyapadeshya means unmanifested. Avyapadeshya. Dharam, the properties. Upati, common. Dharmi, the substratum of the properties. So he says it is the substratum that by nature goes through this shant, the latent, uprising or unmanifested phases. So dharmi is common in all of those conditions. The substratum, it's common. In the latent also, active also, unmanifestable properties also. See, just like dharmi of this body is what? The soul, the atma. That is the substratum. Dharmi of this whole creation is what? The Brahm. Changes happen, but no changes happen in the dharmi. So the transformation takes place in the properties, in the characters and conditions of the chitta, or in the elements, the bhuts or the indriyas. There must be something which remains unchanged, which is the common substratum of all these changes. It's just like a screen on our TV. That is the substratum. Sometimes there could be a movie being played in there. Sometimes news, sometimes weather, sometimes comedy. But what is the substratum for all of that? Is that screen. No change in that screen. So this is all the changes happen on other than what that dharmi is. So in a yogic philosophy, it is a common fact that under all conditions of change, there is an underlying factor beyond any change. This is a yogic philosophy, Vedic philosophy, or Sanatan Dharma philosophy. There are a lot of other philosophies, they may not believe in it, but this is the philosophy which we are learning and adhering to. The body changes with age, but the I or the self remains unchanged. Not only during this birth, but throughout the whole series of births. The same I was there in the last birth or the birth before, and the same I will be in the future birth also. Bodies change. My changing states from childhood to old age are all ascribed to me only because in me there is a principle which is unaltered, unchanged. This is called the dharmi. See, we normally talk about dharma, but this dharmi term we are not familiar with. So this is a technical term which Rishi Patanjali is using over here. So it is not the body or mind or the chitta or the impressions. So it is said in the sutra that the dharmi is the substratum of all changes, past, present, and future. This is basically what he is telling us. So now in next verse, verse number 15, Kram anyatvam parinam anyatva hetu. Kram means order, like a succession. Anyatvam, difference. Parinam is the transformation. Again, anyatve, far difference. Hetu means cause. The difference in the process of succession is the cause in transformation. So that means a succession of these different phases is the cause of the different stages in evolution. So there's a difference in the succession of events in various things. Scriptures often talk about give us the analogy of a lump of mud, which can be developed into a pot. But then it can be destroyed again and become a lump of mud again. The same manner, a particular chit undergoes transformation in a particular manner according to the undergoing laws of its nature. And this difference in the order of events will give rise to different transformations of the chit, senses, and elements. Now the whole structure of a chit should undergo a change, a process, which is called involution. Because this is a process of samadhi we are talking about. And nirodha is involved in the structure of chitta. So this sutra says that any change which goes on in the structure of the mind is there because it must be there. So if you do not practice any sadhana, you just leave yourself as you are, even then in the course of time, your chit will undergo this particular state of transformation. But it may take several births. But if you do the sadhana with a full earnestness, then this change can happen sooner, and we will go towards that ultimate goal faster. So remember this Kram word, it really means the regular sequence. The sequence. So differences in changes in us could be caused by the changing order of sequences in the method of practice. So that's why they say that stick to one practice. Can you hear me okay? There's a lot of rain happening outside, so. So yoga practice is a regular sequence must be followed. That's why you remember in the very beginning of this scripture, he told us that you got to have a life which is fully disciplined, anushashan. Okay, so that's why not just only the waking up time and sleeping, but our practice has to be fully structured. Normally, we just make the deviations very easily. But if we want to reach to this ultimate goal fast, quickly, then we got to do it. We got to follow the practice properly. So we got to acquire the restraint. We got to, sure, there is a dharana, dhyan, samadhi. But then after that, he told us about samadhi, ekagrat, and nirodh avastha also. Sometimes we just very easily either give up our practice or change our practice also. We think that there's a faster way, easier way. But a yogi guru always keeps telling us, they tell us that, hey, stick with that one routine. Otherwise, it's almost like if you plant something and you just pick it up and replant it somewhere else, it will not grow properly. It might wilt. So we got to be very careful. So the importance of structure and sequence, that's what he's talking about over here, the Krama. So the structure of evolution and progress in all things, they have their own inner logic and harmony. And that is the sequence of the Krama he's talking about. So next verse, Parinam Treya Sanyamat Atit Anagat Jnanam. This verse is about knowledge of the past and the future. Sometimes we wonder, how did Rishi Valmiki knew the past also? Of course, the present also, and the future also. Through this kind of a sanyam. Parinam Treya Sanyamat Atit Anagat Jnanam. Parinam is the transformation. Tre means three. Sanyamat by sanyam. Atit is the past. Anagat is the future. Anagat, aane wala. Anagat. Jnanam, knowledge. So by performing sanyam on the three transformations, again, those three transformations are what? Samadhi, ekagrat, and nirodha. Knowledge of past and future arises. So by practicing sanyam on the three stages of evolution comes the knowledge of the past and the future. So samadhi, ekagrat, nirodh are the three transformations. To perform sanyam on these three means to perform sanyam first on samadhi, then on ekagrat, and then on nirodh. It means you perform sanyam in the form of awareness of the distractions and eliminate them also. So we should have that kind of a practice where no distraction comes in our way. So then you practice sanyam on the awareness of one-pointedness. Then similarly, sanyam on nirodh means to become aware of it. Nirodha. So these three sanyams eliminate the distractions of the mind side by side. There is awareness of the state also, and the side by side with the removal of distraction also. And you must become totally aware of that removal. This is called sanyam on the three transformations. So then the chit becomes so fine, so pristine, that it transcends the barrier of time and knows the happenings of the past and the future. See, normally we don't know we are not even familiar with the present because our mind is so distracted. But yogi's chit is so pristine, so clear, can see the past also, future also, and of course, the present also. So this is what he's talking about. in this verse. So parinam traya sanyam atit anagat jnanam. So mastery, and mastery in anything comes from practice. We all know that. So that's why Rishi Patanjali is explaining it again and again. These are definitely a supernatural powers. And it really, these powers accrue with the time. So Shant Udit Avyapade. That's what we learned in the previous verse. So we got to just keep on practicing. But in this sutra, he begins to identify the accomplishments which come to that practitioner who has advanced in this sadhana. For us, they may be just the words we are reading. But when we combine this with our own practice, and when we study the life stories of those rishis, then we don't doubt those accomplishments. Because this is a philosophy we are learning, or we are learning how to achieve this. And the people who have achieved it, we know from their life stories. If we have faith in it, then we'll believe those stories also. Then we can believe that when Rishi Vyas gave that power to Sanjay, how could he see far away? How could he hear far away? Because of these yogic powers. So these, or Lord Krishna, when he gave those Gyan Chakshu to Arjun, and Arjun saw what was already there, but with his mortal eyes, he could not see that. But with those eyes which were given to him by his Guru, by God, then he could see the Virat Rupa. So then we don't question those stories or those scriptures. But in order to experience for ourselves, we have to practice. So first is the awareness of time. The yogis, they really have learned to cross the frontiers of time. Yogi sees time ever flowing. So that's why they have the knowledge of the past and the future. See, we look at the time, either it's a daytime, night time, or by the clock. But yogis, they see the whole spectrum of time, not just the clock time, but the time of different eons also they can see. What happened in particular yuga also they know. So that's what the supernatural power is. So we got to intensify our sadhana. But with the sadhana, we got to have a sustained faith also. And with the faith, we should have enthusiasm also. Because sometimes we don't see the results and we just get disheartened also. So faith, enthusiasm, and the sadhana, all of it has to be there at the same time. Now let's look at verse number 17. Shabd arth pratyanam itretara dhyasat sankar tat pravibhag sanyamat sarvabhut rut jnanam. Shabd, the word, arth, object, pratyanam, mental content, itretara dhyasat, because of mental superimposition. Sankar, confusion. Tat means that. Pravibhag, separate. Sanyamat, by sanyam. Sarvabhut, all living beings. Rut means speech. Jnanam means knowledge. In this particular verse, he's talking about the knowledge of all the speeches, Ruth. So the word, its meaning, and the idea behind it are normally confused. Sankar. Because of the superimposition upon one another. By sanyam on the word or sound produced by any being, knowledge of its meaning is obtained. How did these yogis, they understood the birds, the fish, the animals through this sanyam. Usually our knowledge of object is confused because of a confusion of a shabd, arth, and pratyay. That's why we often say, I said it, but I don't mean it. Because we are in a confused state of mind. But if we do sanyam on them, separately we can know the speech of all animals. So the sound should be separated from the object from the idea, such as the word cow, the object cow, and the pratyay cow. Sanyam should be done on these three factors separately. So the superimposition or confusion between the word, object, and the pratyay or mental experience is removed. Different people have different mental experiences from the objects. Going back to that example of cow, a Hindu will say it should be protected, while a Muslim will say that it should be slaughtered. This is the difference in the pratyay. The same way, there's a difference between the words. For example, in different languages, there are different words for the same object. When you make a difference between the word cow, the name cow, and the idea of cow, and do sanyam separately on three, Rishi Patanjali is saying that you will know the speech or language of the cow also, or any other animal too, or any other creature. These are the secrets of yoga, which people do not practice or do not believe in because it is difficult. It takes a lot of practice. Every object in the world has three components. Components are called vibhag. Sound or word, the form, and the idea. You should be able to do sanyam on the sound waves separately. On the form of the sound waves, ocean waves separately. And even on the idea separately, which is very difficult. But that's why the yogis, they are called the scientists also. They did a lot of sadhana on this nature. That's how they could even dissect this nature. They could understand. They could understand not just only these five elements, but the whole universe. How far the sun is, how big the sun is, how many universes are out there, the galaxies, the solar systems. Through this sanyam, sitting at one place, they could see the whole thing. So perfect yogi acquires accurate knowledge of the meaning and feeling of any sound or word in any language produced by any being. no confusion. An accomplished yogi intuitively perceives and precisely distinguishes the meaning, the feeling of each word and sound uttered by any living being, actually. This is what Rishi Patanjali is telling us. We'll start with the next week, the next one, where he says, Sanskar sakshat karnat purva jati jnanam. Sanskar, the impressions. Sakshat karnat, by direct perception. Purv means previous, jati means birth, jnanam means knowledge. So this is about the knowledge of the previous births. By direct perception of the impressions, knowledge of the previous births arises. We want to know our past. We want to know our future also. But Rishi Patanjali is telling us the past births you can know because it's all inscribed in our chitta. Sanskars, there are two kinds of sanskars. There are memory and there are vasanas. And this is what we're going to talk about next week. So we'll start with the verse number 18. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much for joining.